What you need are independent voices who will stand up to a bully. Donald Trump is a coward. Donald Trump is a bully.
We're ready. We're prepared. Do not give in to fear. We are fearless. This is not the time to be afraid. This is a time to stand up and fight back and to resist any temptation for them to divide us. We're in this together. The rule of law is on our side. We will not give in, not give up. We will not capitulate. We will not bow. We will not bend. We will survive.
He is the author of Free the Press, The Death of American Journalism and How to Revive It. I don't know if that's possible. His podcast is Just Ask the Question. Let me welcome my buddy, Brian Karam. Hello.
Hey, Karen, good to see you. Good to see you.
Good to be seen. Yes.
I'll also plug the Substack, Reporter's Notebook at on Substack. There you go.
Thank
now
you.
You got everything.
Thank you. I was just railing on the Fourth Estate, as I watch journalism not be journalism. The Saudis. Can you tell me before we go any further, what did the Saudis give? Why did they give Jared Kushner $2 billion to
own him or to rent?
No, but
extended
what did he give up for that?
Yeah, well, his freedom, and he's not the only one. Donald Trump is all transactional all the time. Jared Kushner is now sitting on boards and has stock. And look, that whole thing about giving a plane to Donald Trump is all about buying someone. Donald Trump rolls up into Saudi Arabia, is greeted by the prince, MBS, who, by the way, is our own CIA determined he's responsible for the death of Jamal Khashoggi.
Yes.
Yeah, that poor man was strangled, drawn, quartered, put on fire, burned, and by God, MBS was behind all of that. And
so pause for a second, Brian. For people who don't know who Khashoggi was, and why would they go to those lengths to do all of those things to a journalist? What did he do that infuriated them to chop him up and put him in boxes?
Strangle him. They strangled him, then chopped him up, and then put him in boxes, and then put him and then burned him. And that's all pretty well established, and it's all pretty well established without any doubt, because there were microphones in the room, that MBS was behind it. And if the microphones were there and you could hear his last words, the torture that they did to the man is on audio tape. They did it because he spoke out against MBS, and he spoke out against the Saudi regime, and he asked for reform, democratic reform. He had operated inside Saudi Arabia and had to flee and had taken up residence in the United States, and was an outspoken critic of Saudi Arabia, wrote for the Washington Post. And when he died, Donald Trump did nothing about it when he was president. Of course, Joe Biden didn't do much either. And then now Trump comes back and says there's nothing he wouldn't do for MBS. This dead journalist,
wow,
who only was trying to tell the truth, vetted factual information, is dead. And international and national leaders have brushed it under the carpet. Yes, you're right. There is the Fourth Estate is dead, and it has died. And you can see that in a press briefing where I can't be there. They won't let me be there.
Okay, so let's pause. Last time you were here, you were working for Playboy, Rolling Stone?
Yes, I was Playboy's White House correspondent, senior White House correspondent.
Okay.
For Playboy magazine.
Yes, which, as people think about Playboy and nudies, Playboy has, as Rolling Stone has right now, some of the best journalists.
Yes.
Some of the best, it's like when people would joke, I'm reading it for the articles. That could be true about Playboy magazine as it is now for Rolling Stone.
If you ever heard of Malcolm X or Martin Luther King, you read Playboy magazine, because that's where they, Malcolm X he wrote for Playboy. So did Martin Luther King. So did a variety, and Roots. Remember Roots? Well, that had its roots in Playboy magazine. So Playboy was on the forefront of civil rights, was on the forefront of female rights, women's rights, was on the forefront for voters' rights. And yes, when people said they wrote for, they read Playboy magazine for the articles, many of us did. Of course, I was also the excuse people gave for, hey, I wrote the articles. So But the point being is that it did, and it is now gone. And part of the reason why we have a problem with independence in this country and free press is because independent journalists no longer exist. It was Ben Bagdikian, who was the editor of the Washington Post at one point in time, and said, if you want a diversity of opinion in this country, you have to have a diversity of media ownership,
That's
and
right.
our government has sacrificed that. And that's the
Yes.
God's honest truth. Six
Yes.
companies own or operate 95% of what you see, read, or hear on a national basis.
And
Journalism, if you
and
watch the briefing room, is dead.
that was under Powell, Colin Powell's son, when he was head of the FCC. Because I
Yep.
remember I said this is the end, right? So
Yep.
you not being as a White House correspondent, what were you able to do that we needed you to do that no longer is being done?
What you need are independent voices who will stand up to a bully. Donald Trump is a coward. Donald Trump is a bully. His chief White House, Goebbels, I call him Goebbels, or I've heard him called many other things. Stephen Miller, they also call him, his little German. But I'm sorry, he ran away from me 3 or 4 times in the White House when I tried to confront him. They are cowards, and they will run away from people who will hold truth to power. They don't allow anyone in the briefing room who's going to, and by the way, I don't call this person a press secretary. She's a PEP secretary and a white supremacist PEP secretary. And all you really need is to give her a pair of pom poms and a cheerleader skirt. And, Donald Trump is the greatest. You've gone from hard questions in that briefing room to, could you tell us why Donald Trump shoots rainbows out of his butt? That's most of the questioning that you're getting. Anybody who's going to hold him accountable is gone. They limited wire services. They first cut out the AP, and then they limited the wire services. And two of the most accomplished reporters and those who are most critical of Trump work for Reuters, Steve Holland and Jeff Mason. They rarely get in there. And so what you really need are people who will stand up to the bully. If he's controlling who's in the pool, he's controlling who's in the briefing room, so he's controlling who asks him questions, and all he wants is for you to kiss his butt.
So the fact that we're getting all of these ridiculous comments from him with
Without
not
challenge.
a without a lot of good journalism is, I think, a testament to just how horrible he is. But the fact is, there's nobody there asking him tough questions. And if we do get the
Yeah.
like, I don't know, even though I'm in
What
charge
do
of
you mean you
everything.
don't? Here, I'll give you two quick examples. Caitlin Collins walked in and asked him a question, and he goes, "What?" And it was a decent question from CNN. And he says, "Why can't you say nice things? Everybody else says nice things." That tells you who Donald Trump is. Then Stephen Miller, on the day that the Supreme Court voted 9-0, handed him a defeat 9-0, Donald Trump said, "Hey, Stephen, we won that one, didn't we?" And Stephen Miller lies in the Oval Office in front of the pool. And guess what, Karen? Not one reporter pushed back. Not one reporter said, "Mr. Trump, he's lying to you." Because we know Donald Trump doesn't
Doesn't
read the.
know what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't know what's going. The real guy running this country right now, and look, I have sources in the White House that say he's the last one in the room. He's always giving his opinion last because he knows that Donald Trump listens to the last person in the room. Is Stephen Miller, a bigger
Okay.
racist, a bigger
All
bigot
right.
you've never seen.
Brian Karam is here. He's no longer a White House correspondent, which means
I'm
we
a
don't.
White House columnist for Salon, so
Okay. Okay.
I still have my press pass. They just don't like me around.
Okay. And you can't ask questions because you're not in the room. Is April Ryan still in the room?
April gets very little. She and I get about the same amount of time, and we can. Here's the difference. Okay, we both have our press pass. We can go into the briefing room, and she circulates through the briefing room, and I do too. The simple fact of the matter is neither one of us are in the press pool, so we have no access to the president because the president won't show up in the briefing room. He doesn't even do chopper talk anymore. Remember, that was when he would walk to the chopper and stop and talk to us for 10 or 15 minutes. He only speaks in front of the pool, and he's handpicking most of those people. So April has about as much access to him as I do, probably maybe a little bit more because she's probably there more often. But none of us who are going to push hard against this president are going to be given much time in front of him. That's a fact.
I'm almost like, I don't want to hear from him. I don't believe
Uh,
anything he says. But
Karen,
I
I got
want,
to tell you, I'm with you.
yeah, I want people to hear Stephen Miller's perspective. This is in Brian Karam's opinion. the man that Donald Trump listens to most. I want you to hear Smith play the Stephen Miller clip that we have. While we wait for the Stephen Miller clip, I want to also read a quote from Sinclair Lewis's 1935 novel. I posted it on my IG today. The novel is It Can't Happen Here. And in the novel, he writes, a vain, outlandish, anti-immigrant, fear-mongering demagogue runs for president of the United States. This is the jacket description, and wins. Sinclair Lewis's chilling 1935 bestseller is the story of Buzz Windrip, who promises poor, angry voters that he will make America proud and prosperous once more. Sound familiar? But takes the country down a far darker path. As the new regime slides into authoritarianism, newspaper editor Doremus Jessup can't believe it will last. But is he right? This cautionary tale of liberal complacency in the face of populist tyranny shows it really can happen here. Octavia Butler tried to tell us in the 1980s. This has been ongoing, and now here we are. We're here now.
James Baldwin tried to warn us.
Yes.
James said, I love America more than any other country in the world, and exactly for that reason, I insist on the right to criticize her perpetually. And people forget that we have been here before. People forget that we have seen this before. People think this is new. It's not new. What it is dangerous, because in the age of instantaneous transformation of information, for instantaneous communication, you have the ability to inflict far more harm. It was Lincoln who said, a lie will make its way around the world before the truth puts its boots on. By God, in today's day and age, that is definitely true. So people believe Donald Trump because he takes up all the oxygen in the room. You've got to speak out against him. And I'm with you. I'm so tired of hearing this guy. If somebody said, Brian, what's your one question? I would say, would you shut the up and sit down, because I'm tired of
I want you in the press room just to do that. They'll probably send you to El Salvador afterwards. I'll send you a care package. You're probably going to be shipped off, but I want you to do it. 866.
Well, I did it last time.
Okay. Let me play the Stephen Miller clip so that people can digest how this country is actually being run. Play it, Smith.
Children will be taught to love America. Children will be taught to be patriots. Children will be taught civic values for schools that want federal taxpayer funding. So as we close the Department of Education and we provide funding to states, we are going to make sure that these funds are not being used to promote communist ideology. For any nation to be successful, it cannot teach its children to hate themselves and to hate their country. So these are a few of the areas in which President Trump has fought the cancerous communist woke culture that was destroying this country, where we were led to believe that men were women, that women were men, that racial discrimination was good, that merit was bad, and that safety and physical security mattered less than the feelings of liberal ideologues.
You tiny little pencil.
See, the problem with that is they twist everything. Racial segregation and discrimination is wrong, but it's not white people that are suffering. Right. He thinks it's white people suffering.
No, he doesn't think that. He doesn't think that. That's the.
He wants you to think that.
When he brought up the trans thing, they have a circle of things that touch on people's emotions, and it gets them to lean in. But it's not going to get you your Social Security check. It's not going to get your Medicaid, your freaking insulin lowered. It's not going to give you the right to vote. This feeling about the trans and all of this other stuff. And they're making my children feel bad.
Yeah, you're worried about 1% of the population.
No, less than 1%. Less than 1. They're not though. But it's a wild thing that worked, and it did work, Brian. That worked. Well, and also what's wild to me is that for the people who think that they're white and they're against white people, why do you have you and your children aligned with racists and insurrectionists and traitors like the Confederates? Why are you aligning yourself with that? It's un-American, and we need to fight back with the narrative, not in response, all of this woke stuff that he doesn't even know how to define it, but we need to lay it out. But go ahead.
Well, you need to lay it out with the freaking Constitution. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all people are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And whenever any government becomes destructive of these ends, it is right of the people to alter or to abolish it. You want to really teach people in school? Put a civics class back in. Don't indoctrinate me into what you think. Teach critical thinking. Then you
Yeah.
can talk to
Oh
me.
no, they don't
And
want that.
no,
They'll
of
be out of
course not.
power.
They want
They'll be
rote.
out of
They,
power.
they want
Yeah.
rote. They want you to just obey. It was like what George Carlin said. They want you just smart enough to operate the machinery. And if you think you're part of the club, you're not. And we're not. The fact of the matter is, they will divide and conquer everyone, and that's what they're trying to. Look, there are basically. I wrote these down for my column this week. This is what they've destroyed in the first 100 days. There are only 1,349 days left of this moron. They have destroyed due process for everyone. The military is set up along 3 states that have interstate jurisdiction to arrest citizens of the United States without due process.
Which
So
which
they're
states? Hold on, which states?
it's the three. I think it's Texas, Arizona, and New Mexico on the border. Those 3 states along the border to keep immigration down. By the way, they still want to build a wall. And if you haven't seen the Big Bend area of Texas, it's like the Grand Canyon. You can't build a wall. Next, end of story. Free speech, they've destroyed that. All right. Healthcare, they're destroying that, and Social Security. And you think anyone thinks that they're there to help you? Look, if you're a white person, let me remind you what they told me the first day. This is the first day of the first Donald Trump administration. I walked in, they go, "What's your last name?" And I go, you pronounce it Karam. And they go, "Well, what is that?" And I go, "It's a last name." And they go, "Yeah, but what is it?" I go, "It's a last name. What's your last name?" And they go, "You know what I'm trying to ask." And I go, "No, I don't. Spell it out for me." And they thought I was Muslim. So they wanted to, and mind you, there was a guy named Scott.
Wow.
Yeah, there was a guy named Scott Karam who was his body man. It's all about intimidation. It's all about them trying to make sure that you're not there. Why do you think they let in 59 Afrikaners from South Africa this week? Why do you think that is? Do you think it's because they think they're really being, threatened with genocide? If you want to see genocide, all you have to do is go to Gaza, where 1 in 5 people are starving. There's no home, there's no supplies, and they have said point blank, this is Donald Trump. I would love to turn the whole area into a golf course. And from river to sea, the Israelis want them gone. Bibi wants to pave it over and kill everyone there or move them out. That's genocide. 59 Afrikaners who have been prosecuted because they're racist. That's not genocide. Never will
Correct.
it be.
Brian Karam is here. Let me play a little bit of Jimmy Kimmel. He had this to say about Donald Trump on Morning Joe.
I laugh when people say, "Oh, you've got Trump derangement syndrome." I think if you're a reasonable person, you should have Trump derangement syndrome. And by the way, I think he has derangement syndrome about us too. The fact of the matter is, this is a dangerous person. This is a stupid person, and that's a bad combination.
Yes, I wrote that. I don't know.
You probably did. You
I'll-
could.
I could have written it. I will say this: there are people with Trump derangement syndrome. Everybody who supports Donald Trump.
I
The
agree.
the idea that Donald Trump is in any way equivocable to what I would call a cogent, sound human being. No, I've been 4 feet away from him and had to shake hands with him and have spoken to him many times. The man is not right in the head, and we gave Joe Biden grief for and now you've got Jake Tapper wanting to write. He's kissing Trump's butt by writing this book about Joe Biden. And by the way, that's also a lie, saying that no
Wow.
one questioned Joe Biden. I've got videotape of me every week questioning that administration as to why he wasn't in the briefing room taking questions from us. It is revisionist history to say that we did nothing, and now you're just kissing Donald Trump's butt because Donald Trump thinks we were all in cahoots with the Biden administration to hide him. Not true. Not true at all. And so I push back against them. But the fact of the matter is, we gave Biden grief about his age. Donald Trump, I saw signs of dementia the first time he was in office.
Yes.
Don't tell
And
me
he
he's
keeps
gotten
falling
any
asleep.
better.
He's Sleepy
Oh,
Don. Sleepy
yeah.
Don.
As his niece Mary told me, and I love this quote. She goes, "There's no worst with Donald. each day is merely worse. So there's no basement for this guy. He's going to continue to get worse. I don't know when you're going to get rid of him. When he falls over in a puddle of his own drool, and and a sound of flatulence that sounds like a foghorn. Get rid of the. I
Yeah.
can't
Well,
believe
okay.
we elected the guy.
Well, I didn't. Black
I
people
didn't.
didn't. So there we go. And Brian Karam didn't. Let's play one more clip. Scott Galloway had this to say about this current administration. Play it, Smith.
I'm fascinated, Scott, that according to CNBC, while 58 crypto wallets have made over $10 million each on President Trump's meme coin, that's the fight, fight, fight coin, over 750,000 wallets have lost money on it. That's incredible to me. Like 58 people who I guess somehow were in the know.
Yeah.
Made money, or many of them may have been in the know, and the vast majority of people who are buying small amounts, supporters of the president, I'm guessing, lost money.
But that's the definition of a kleptocracy, is that a small number of people with proximity to power make an exceptional amount of money, but the larger public loses a lot of money. It extends beyond that. On April, I believe it was the 9th, at 1 p.m., there was abnormal trading volume and calls, people betting the stock market was going to go up. And then at 1:18, Trump announced he was pausing tariffs, and the market screamed to one of its largest gains in history. So somebody knew at 1 p.m. what he was about to do. This is arguably the biggest grift in modern history. Think
No,
about
not
it.
arguably,
The Trump
definitely.
family has gained $1 billion in wealth per month over the last 3 months. And the world is getting, or the U.S. is getting more expensive for everybody else.
Yeah,
What are we
if you
doing?
don't understand that he's about the grift, you're the mark. Let me tell you how he screwed the press, all right? There's something called a strategic lawsuit against public participation, SLAPP lawsuits. This is where people sue you. They don't expect to win in court, but because they're rich and you don't have as much money, they can force you into concessions. Donald Trump has done that with CBS, Fox News, ABC, LA Times, Washington Post. Washington Post in particular sued them. CBS, you had the executive producer of 60 Minutes who quit because Donald Trump sued them. And then a judge made a decision that allowed him to take money. If it happened in a back alley, it'd be called a crime. But because it's sanctioned by a judge, it's not. The same with his pyramid scheme, which is his Dogecoin or his meme coin or whatever the hell he's calling the damn thing. His cryptocurrency is merely a pyramid scheme, and it benefits the richest. And the ones losing money, again, you're not part of the club. You're losing money if you're one of his supporters. I can't tell you how often I still get emails from this guy saying, buy this hat, Gulf of America hat. Here, gold. He wants to sell gold golf balls. Does anybody want Donald Trump's balls? I mean, golf balls.
No,
I mean, give me a
no.
break. That's,
You. All
yeah.
right. So we got a couple of minutes left, Brian. What's the cause of what do we do?
Here's what you do. And this is going to be tough. First of all, the Democrats have to own up to the fact that they're part of the reason why we have a problem. There were plenty of people who didn't vote for Kamala Harris who were just as racist and just as bigoted as the Republicans. You've got to get out and you've got to get involved. And I don't mean just vote. I mean, you've got to get people to the polls. You got to volunteer. You got to volunteer to be poll watchers. You got to be on telephone lines, telephone chains. You've got to knock door to door. You cannot not vote. You have to vote. The one thing you've got to give Donald Trump and his supporters, I don't like them, but I'll give this to them. They vote and they have a lot of energy. So you've got to outdistance them. You can't sit back and go, this sucks, and then don't do anything about it. And you've got to do more than vote. You've got to be vocal and you've got to speak to your congressman. I'll guarantee you this much. Even the far right, they have the largest staff that they have is their communication staff who fields phone calls from the people they serve. And if they can smell in the wind that they're going to lose if they don't change, they will change because by God, many of them couldn't get a job anywhere else.
You better say that. Marjorie Taylor Greene. Well, there's a job for knuckle dragger. Neanderthal. She could be in the Museum of Natural History and
I
be one of
wouldn't
the
hire
mannequins.
that woman to wipe tables.
We're ready. We're prepared. Do not give in to fear. We are fearless. This is not the time to be afraid. This is a time to stand up and fight back and to resist any temptation for them to divide us. We're in this together. The rule of law is on our side. We will not give in, not give up. We will not capitulate. We will not bow. We will not bend.